Kadosh, Boker Or, Mishna Yomi, Masechet, Baba, Batra, Perek, Dalet, Mishnah Tet, is the last Mishnah of the Perek, and Perek Hey, Mishnah Aleph. So it starts. Yeah, it starts like this. Aval, lo machar et avanim she'ena letzorka. We are talking about, again, of the previous Mishnah, that we were talking about a standard sale of field. So we said, when we're talking about now the standard sale of a field, it says that you're not going to come and you're not going to sell, right, the detached stones, right, of that are not reserved for its use. So that means, for example, you got stones in a field. So when you sold the field, the stones which are in the field are not considered part of the sale. Or the reeds that are in a vineyard, which are not for its use of the vineyard, or the tivua, which is going to be tlusha min karka, when you have a grain which is going to be detached from the ground, it's not included in the sale. However, though, if he tells them, you're selling it and everything which is inside of it, everything's going to be sold. Whether one or the other, whether right one way or another way, right, whether he actually included everything or not. He does not sell the thickets of the reeds, which is going to be like a mechitza, which is going to be larger than betrova, or the shomera, right, which is basically the watchman's hut. That's called the shomera, like means the shomer. Shomera shia suya betit, which is made out of clay. Velot charuva mulkav, or not the carob tree, which has already been grafted. Velot tzadana shikma, or not the mature sycamore tree that has already been pruned. These items, since they're significant, they're always separate. And therefore, even if he says everything which is inside of it, it's a separate identity. So therefore, you cannot say that it's included in the sale. You have to actually itemize it. You have to actually say this is actually included, because it's not just anything tangible like a temetaltalin or things like that. It's included. We don't say that. Okay? Velota bor, velota gad, velota shovach. You're not going to come and you're not going to sell the pit, the wine press, or the dovecote. Right? There's we're talking about the dovecote of the birds. Ben charevin, ben yeshuvin. Doesn't matter whether they're actually being used or not being used. Okay, fine. Next part. So we already mentioned that you're going to have to come and you're going to have to purchase a path to get to these things. Because if these things were not included in the sale, how do I get to it? So I have to purchase a path. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Right? So he comes and he says, you don't need. Rabbi Akiva is going to agree. If he said except for these things, then for sure he doesn't have to purchase a path. Why? Because if I'm telling you, I'm selling you this except for my dovecote, so obviously it meant that I'm keeping for myself a path to get to the dovecote. So I don't have to purchase that means even Rabbi Akiva is going to agree that I do not need to come and purchase a path. What happens if he sold it to somebody else? Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, you don't have to purchase a path, because when you're selling it, right, you're going to sell with an ayin yafa. No, you do have to purchase a path. Why? He comes and he says, because when you're doing it with an ayin. Basically, there's a machloka when you sell something, you're doing it by ayin tova or ayin ra, right, with a good eye, with a bad eye. And according to that, you have to actually purchase a path or not. Okay. Now he comes and he says now, like this, he's selling this to somebody else and he's keeping it for himself the rest, right? So b'med one of these words, bemocher, only if he's giving it, if he's selling it. But if he gave it as a present, notenet kulam. What does that mean? That means if you're coming, you're going to give a gift. So all these things are part of the gift. So that means if you give a gift, right? So for example, it's a field. So everything's inside of it included, even the sycamore trees, and meaning because when you're giving a present, it includes everything which is inside of it. So that's the difference between a sale and a present. If I'm going to sell you a house, so we already said, if it's just going to be some, certain things, is it included, not included? If it's going to be outside of my house, I had a big, I don't know what, trampoline, it's not going to be included, right? Because maybe it was very chashuv and it should have been written down. But if I'm giving it to you as a present, so then it is included, because the present includes that as well. Okay. Even without the chol masechet, because if you come and you say hi v'chol masechet, right? You give a present and you say hi v'chol masechet, even the most important items are included. Sycamore tree, yes, sycamore tree and all the other things there. But you have to say hi v'chol masechet. But again, you're giving it as a present. Okay. So now he says this. Okay, fine. So he says when you're selling it, if you're giving it a present, or the second he's going to be zochen the field, you're zochen everything. If you're also going to take a chazaka in the property of a ger, the second you made a chazaka in the field, you made a chazaka in everything. Right? Why? Because remember, the ger, all the property you're going to take. So for when you come into the property and take this, the sycamore tree and the shomera and the, like the watchman thing and all those things are all included. The same thing when you consecrate and you give it to the Bet HaMikdash, Hekdish et Kula. Rabbi Shimon says, when you consecrate a field, right? The only thing that it's not consecrated any items that would not be included in the sale, except for the grafted tree in the Shor Sycamore. Because according to him, the mindset of the person saying it is like one who sells it, and therefore Rabbi Shimon holds like the Chachamim that when you sell it with a stingy eye. The one difference between the sale and the hekdesh is going to be only these trees. So those are the only differences, because since they're deriving nourishment from the field, so it's also part of the hekdesh. Meaning the other things, the shomerah, no. Shomerah and whatever other things, it only these things that since they take nourishment from the ground, they're included in the hekdesh as well. Okay, the first Mishnah of Perek Hey. Hamocheret asfina. If you're going to come and you're going to sell a ship, so macharet turon v'tanes v'taugim v'tamanigin. So you actually sold the mast, the sails, the anchor, and also all the things that move the ship or assist the steering. I mean, you sell everything. The sails, all these things. It's not just the hallow, whatever it is. You sell everything. But you don't sell, right, the crew or the marzufin. These are the sacks, which are, they got bags of the cargo, right? Or the nartuki. What is the nartuki exactly? He comes and he says, the nartuki says here is certainly not so the cargo itself. That's the cargo itself. The marzufin are the bags of the cargo, like the big, the cranes or whatever it is of the cargo. And here, the crates of the cargo. And here we're talking about the actual cargo in itself. But if he told him, I'm selling you the ship and everything inside of it, everything's sold. If you sold a wagon, so lo macharet pradot, you didn't sell the mules that come with the wagon, right? But if you sold the mules, lo macharet karon, you also did not sell the wagon, right? Because again, each one is separate. Since each one is separate, so therefore, each one is a separate identity. Macharet tzemen lo macharet bakar, macharet bakar lo macharet tzemen. If you sold the yoke, which the yoke was basically a bar that would attach, right, the oxen together in a row. So it was like a bar. It attaches all the animals together, so that way they're able to go and to walk together, right? I wish I could do that for Kaddish. You put them all together, right? And then what happens is they're all walking at the same time. They're all going at the same time. So he comes and he says, "Macharet tatzemed lo macharet bakar." You don't sell the oxen with it. But if you sold the bakar, right, which is you sold the oxen, lo macharet tatzemed. Because again, since each one is separate, meaning I could combine them and I could separate them. Each one could do it. It's not that it had to come that way. If I have sails without a ship, it doesn't help me anything. If I have a ship without a sails, it also doesn't help me anything. Right? It's going to just take me nowhere. You understand? So the same thing here, though. Each one could work independently. So since each one could work independently, I didn't sell one or the other. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, "What is the safek? Tell me the money. Show me the money. What does that mean? When you're selling the tzemed or the bakar, you know the value. So just tell me the value. If it's just the pole or whatever it is, so just check what is the value of what you're selling." So he says, "Hadamim modein." So he says, "Case. What's the case? Mechol yitzim lecha b200 zuz." He comes and says, "Sell me the tzemed for 200 zuz." Hadavar yadua. We know that it doesn't cost 200 zuz for the tzemed. We know that. So obviously, what the oxen are included because that's obviously part of the sale. Chachamim say so. Chachamim say no. En adamim raya. The money is not always already a proof. He says sometimes people will sometimes overpay or whatever it is, but they need sometimes they want to give it as a present. So I come in and say, "How much is it worth?" I already know it's only worth $50. I don't even let him tell me. So you know what? Here's $100. Thank you so much. Yeah. Good sale. A good sale. I wanted to give him a present, so I overpaid. I was doing that purposely. And by doing that, right, it's not a proof. The money is not a proof to how much or what it is, the actual worth.